Good morning. I'm Bradley McAllister. This is Chromacraft Monday Methods. It's a wonderful fall morning here in South Georgia. And hey, Arthur Miller's in here. Good morning, Arthur. Let me know that everything's working. I made a couple of changes with some wires this morning real quick. So as long as you can hear me and see me, then everything is all good. Art, you still in Hawaii on vacation, or are you home, buddy? Good to see you. And I'm going to walk over real quick, and Mom's here. I'm going to walk over real quick and change my Facebook feed so that I can actually see it on this monitor, because I didn't hit play on that. So let me do that real quick and expand it so I can see when Facebook crashes, like it hopefully doesn't, like it did last week. At least I was happy to know that it was Facebook's system and not my system that crashed and burned last week. See, as you can see, it's fall out the window here if I was in Vermont. But anyway, I thought I'd make that change this morning. It looks cool. It looks great. That was kind of fun. That's what I was doing in the office just before I came out here this morning. I was getting a new image on there. Awesome. How you doing? How's Texas? Mom says she loves the new photo. All right. We're going to play with this stabilized and then resin cast piece of wormy wood from, several months ago. Dad's watching on YouTube this time. Good deal, Dad. That way it should stay good. So this is a piece of, I don't know what kind of wood. It's one that I had just let rot out there. I do not honestly know what it is, but if you can remember back, you see here a lot of resin, and this is a big edge of wood. So this has got this natural edge in here in this area, and if I pop you on the end camera, you can see as well that this section in through here is all resin, and then we go back to wood, and it's super wormy, got lots of wormholes in it. And I notice I have my watch on, so I think I'll take that off too while I'm getting organized here. So this is going to be a fun piece. You can see, when we go back to the top, you can see there's some big splits and stuff, but this has all been stabilized and then cast into solid resin. So it's solid as a rock, super hard. And I'm going to go change one more thing in my control room real quick, since my producer didn't come in this morning, just so that I don't have to be looking at this one white bar. Keith Marshall, good morning. Another Texan drops in. Always a pleasure to have the Texans. I had a great time down at SWAT in Texas, in Waco there back in August. It wasn't even like 106 like it was before. So this piece is going to be a lot of fun. Now, again, this is stabilized with our stabilizing resin and then cast. And one thing I want to talk about real quick is stabilizing resin, a stabilized piece, especially with the brand that we carry. We get it from Best 5 Wax that comes out of the UK. This stuff is really hard. The stabilizing resin is, in this case, I can't speak for other like cactus juice. I haven't actually used it. It is much harder than the epoxy itself. So it's really hard on the tools. Frank Wetley, good morning. So stabilizing resin is really hard. And I have, I'll be using the negative rake cutters, Easy Wood tools with the negative rake cutters. My two main tools today will probably be the round style tool, the finisher as they call it, the radius negative rake, and also a hollowing tool for the inside. So those are the main tools that we'll be using today. The negative rake cutters work great on all this stuff, but again, I just want to emphasize that you'll be surprised if you start stabilizing, if you're not already, how hard stabilizing resin is once it's cured. So it makes it a little bit harder work. Had this just been a piece of wood that we cast in resin, it would be easier to turn. So if it seems like it's a lot of work or a little bit more work, it is. So I also have, over here, I've got some extra cutters. If I decide I need a fresh cutter, especially for the finish, and if the cutters, even if I rotate it, it's just not doing the right job, I'm going to put on a fresh cutter, especially for the end. I'm going to put a negative rake cutter on this tool here in a minute. This is the, this one's not available anymore. This is the Easywood Tools. It was the full size number 3 hollower. And what they did recently, they went to a full size or a pro size. They took the full size. It's the same steel, but now the CI3 style hollowing tool, full size style, full curve from Easywood is in the pro version, so it has the bigger handle on it. Okay, and I'm a fan, and I mean, I know they did what they did because they needed to. This is my favorite hollowing tool of theirs. It's just the perfect right size. The other size in the hollowing tools from Easywood is in a mid-size. And nothing wrong with that, but I get more leverage out of the bigger tool, and you can see the thicker steel in the bigger tool there as well. So you may want to consider, if you're getting to hollow in resin and using the negative rake cutters that you will need, what would be the pro size now, because you can't get the full. The mids will do the job just fine, but if you like a little more leverage and a bigger handle, you might want to go there. So I just wanted to show you those differences. The other thing I was going to show you, now I lost my train of thought. I was going to show you something from the end, and I forget what it was now. Let's see here. I've got this guy. It's already in its tenon. It's in a chuck. It's in the easy chuck. Show you in the overhead here. We've got about a 1/4 inch of a gap there. I thought about, did I need to return the tenon, but the piece appears to turn quite nicely. So I think I'm just going to leave it like that. Make sure that it's snug, and it wasn't. That's why we always check. Give it a couple of cranks there. Also make sure my chuck is tight. Snug that up. Just making sure that's nice and snug and compressed. Okay, that should be pretty good. I think all the camera angles are good. On this end camera, if you were here last week, you remember it was flashing in and out. It has a brand new cable on it, so we shouldn't have any issues with that. Hopefully that won't be a problem at all. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead, let's go ahead and change this cutter on this full-size hollower, and I'm going to set it somewhere that's convenient for me to work. The table over there would be the best, but I'd like to put it right there for you in the overhead. And I've got the little Allen wrench, of course, the one that you lose. Now, when you order cutters, new cutters, replacement cutters from Chromacraft, well, I always add a new wrench in there for you because I lose them, so I figure everybody else does too. One thing that's important, always clean out the screw hole to make sure you don't strip it out if you're going to be reusing it. And even if you're not going to be reusing it, because if you don't clean it out and you don't get a good, firm, solid lock in there, you can strip out the screw before you ever get the piece out. Now, obviously, as I said, you should do this over on a table instead of over top of all these chips underneath the lathe. But do as I say, not as I do in this particular case. And I see that you're getting the little jingles there from the key. If I turn off the key, it should go away. Not that it's bad today. It doesn't look too terribly bad. Horribly horrible. That's a nice word I was working on. Yeah, I see now that in the delay there, all the green tries to do sparkly things. Mark Thompson, good morning. Hopefully Facebook doesn't crash again. Absolutely. That was kind of crazy. So, just putting the fresh cutter on this hollowing tool. Now this piece, I know I was going to show you on the end while I'm getting this out of the bag. My thought is this is about, gosh, probably 3/4 of an inch thick right now. And I'd like to take it down to about 1/4 or so. Nothing extreme, nothing crazy, but I'd like to thin it down. And I would love it if some of these wormholes actually would show through, the resin would show through. I can't get this silly bag open on the end here, but I got something to fix that. And then the last step, which I won't do today because nobody wants to watch anybody sand, would be to sand the piece up. So we'll do everything short of that. I'll probably even throw some lacquer back on it just to make it shiny. All right, let's go back to the overhead here. So I did go with a fresh screw. Now on the screws, if you're going to be turning green wood, I mean, it's always a good idea if you've got it handy, and I'm not sure where my wax is at the moment, put some wax or some grease on your screw, especially if you're turning green wood and not changing cutters, because the screw can rust into the tool. Michael McEwen, you like the seasonal backdrop? Well, thank you, and it's good to see you. We're here to make resin chips fly today with Easy Wood negative rake cutters. Now also always, and I know it's kind of hard to see in here, but always just use the short end of the wrench. Otherwise you can over tighten the screw, and then the next time you go to take it out, you won't be able to. Okay? And so that's good there. I'm going to get these other two out of my way, put them back over here on the rack. And I should show you, in case you're not familiar, this is the CI3 round negative rake cutter that will be kind of the workhorse today, and a radiused CI2 negative rake cutter, which that's what we'll use on the outside for cleaning up that final finish right there. And that's the one that I may change again after the fact. So I think I'll just go ahead and I'm going to lay the tools right out in front of me there on my work table. Everything is set in here. I don't need a tailstock for this because I'm going to be going both inside and outside on the piece today. And it looks like I lost my key because I forgot to hit that button. So that's what it looks like if I don't turn on the electronic switch over there. But it'll come back in just a second. Corey, how are you doing? And I got to steal something else off of it. I changed banjos here when I was doing the bowl coring last week. And I need to steal this handle off of here and put back on this banjo. See, now if I had a producer, the producer wouldn't have let that green screen happen there, that little mistake. Okay, so everything's set, everything's tight. Let's see what kind of speed we've got going on here, how she's balanced. And we are on the overhead, or the front camera. So in the overhead, you'll see it's a little out of round, not bad. And if I pop you to the end camera, you'll see a little bit. Now there's a lot of shiny on the lights. Now that'll go away just as soon as I start to cut on this. Because that's just lacquer shining on the studio lights. But I want to get as much reasonable safe speed as I can to turn this. So that's about 1,000 RPMs there. It's 1068. And that's a decent speed. And it's in balance. The lathe isn't shaking. Nothing's going on crazy there. So that's pretty good. So I think we'll start at this 1,000. Hopefully I would never get a catch on the inside. It could knock it out of the chuck, but I got a pretty good grip on there. So question is, do you start on the inside? Do you start on the outside? It doesn't really matter. The other big question from a design standpoint is, do I want to change the shape of this? If I pop you back down here to the end, if I think about this, do I want to just keep this type of profile that I have going on here? Do I want to flare it? By leaving 3/4 of an inch thick, it gives me lots of opportunities to make changes. I could put a different kind of curl on this rim. I could do anything I want to. And that's one of the things that's really important when you're first making a rough style piece. And if you were to go back and find the video where we cast this, you'll also find that this was cast with a mold in a mold. This was not solid inside here. So I didn't waste all that resin. There was another piece of plastic bowl or cup container in here that displaced all that extra resin. So making this come out at, say, 3/4 of an inch, that gives me lots of latitude to work with. So I think the first thing I'll do, just to get some of the shiny off of it, I'll go ahead and I'll just clean up the outside, and then we'll go to the inside, and then I'm going to think about this. And I'm open if anybody has an opinion, like to see me do anything particular with this piece, shape-wise. If you would like me to add a flare up to the rim or something, just say so. I'll be happy to do whatever, and we'll go from there. So I don't have a real strong opinion on it. Okay, let's jump to the overhead, and let me get my mask out. And get all buttoned up here. And I will start with the CI3 negative rake, the round cutter. I do want to make sure this is at the center axis of the lathe. And there's a couple of ways I can do that. I can check it on the inside as well, and that's pretty much right on the money. We'll see how this cutter cuts. It's been so long, I don't know what I did with it last. All right, off we go. Just a little cleanup here. Get all that shiny off of there. Like I say, that's when I put a coat of lacquer on, and I'm going to turn my fan up onto the higher speed just to give me a little bit more breeze. Keep all the dust blown away from me. Okay, so that outside is true now, nice and smooth, as far as being not out of round, and you can see how all the shininess is gone. So let's jump into the inside and do the same thing. There's something in the collar of my coat today that's poking me in the neck. Kind of aggravating. So let's swing around to the end here. Get the sheen off of this, get her cleaned up. Double check that, there we go. First we'll clean up the rim here, make it flat. Now another thing that I could do with this piece today is I can actually dye it with some of the Chromacraft Aniline dyes. It dyes the resin, dyes the wood. Works pretty well in this configuration. So if I want to alter this color a little bit, I can do that. So what I've done now is I've backed up my tool rest so that, pop you here, I backed my tool rest away so that I sit on the flat section of this hollowing tool. I don't ever want these swan neck, curve neck type tools sitting here on the tool rest, okay? I want to be up on the nice flat solid section where it's nice and stable. So I set that distance right there. Okay. Pop you back over here into the end. Now you can hear it's a little rough on the inside there. We'll get this smoothed out. Now if I start to go around the bottom, I just rotate the tool, and I'll probably move my tool rest in so I'm not quite so far over. So I'll work back up here in the top third or so before I move the tool rest. Yeah, and I'm checking my center, so I'm right at center. This section right in through here is a little bumpy still. And who knows what might be there in the wood, if there's something crazy in the wood right in there, or what. We can also, if you don't have, I should point this out, if you don't have a curved tool, you can do this with a straight tool, okay? Nothing that says you can't. The easiest way will be, I'll have to lean over. So if I lean over to do this, it's probably going to put my shoulder in the way. I'll try not to. You don't have to have a curved tool on a piece this size with this big an opening. Matter of fact, while I'm here, I'll just go across the bottom of this. And if you're getting too much vibration for your own comfort, you can run your tool rest inside the piece, which shortens the amount of reach. Just make sure your tool rest is not hitting. That's always an option. If you think you're getting flex out of your tool shaft, move your tool rest in closer. You notice how I didn't get nearly as much chatter when I moved the tool rest in. Now also think about the difference here between the thickness of the two tools. So when I changed, I had more of a vibration issue with the standard tool, whereas the hollowing tool didn't have so much vibration, even though there was some noise going on in there. And if I show you in the overhead, you can see just how much angle I have on the tool in the process here. So I'm cranked way over here. Now what's important to note, and I'll go back to the end camera, is that when I have the tool set like this, I can't see what I'm doing here, but I can see over on this side. I can see what the tool's cutting over on the other side. So I'm just watching, I'm not even watching the tool, obviously I'm watching this other side, and I can see the tool cut line going down the inside of the piece. And so we're getting a nice clean cut down in there. I love this wood. That's why I love these projects like this. Because when I have this wood that I'm rotting outside, which I am intentionally rotting this wood and getting all the worm holes and everything, then we stabilize it and then we fill it with resin. We get a really unique piece. And I'm pretty tempted to put some dye on this today, just for fun. So I'm thinking about the shape and how I want to make any modifications to this. I think I'll keep working. I'm going to take some more out of the inside for a little while. I'm pretty happy with this outside shape, although I may do some kind of a little flare up here on the top, on the rim, just for fun. I'm thinking Halloween here, kind of candy bowl around the house type of thing. And I'll switch back over to the hollowing tool here in a minute. And talking about the dye color, at this stage, what I could do, I could test a color, because I know that I'm going to turn a bit of this away. So I'm thinking I'm going to do that while we're at this stage. I think I'm going to test a couple of colors maybe. Just put some on there real light and see what it looks like. Because once I get close and get finished or down to my finish, I don't want to be doing that, having to turn much material away. But I can experiment with it now and see what color I might like. So let me pop you just into the overhead for a moment. Now I'm going to go over to the cabinet here. And this is on the fly. I just kind of started thinking about this after I started about using some dyes today. And Halloween is orange for sure. Also might like to play with some radical colors of violet and melon green. I like bright colors. Magenta and violet are pretty similar in my book. What else do I have handy floating around in here? That's just purity red. Okay. All right, let's just play with a couple of those. And I'll get some cups here for colors. I love to experiment. And this is the time to experiment and see what you might want to use. Now, if I find my box of brushes that I have somewhere, I'll be really lucky. They may be next door, but I thought they were here. You know me, especially when I haven't been around out here for a while. I have two brushes there. I don't want to go next door and be gone that long to find more brushes, so we might just hold it to two colors. We'll get ourselves a general idea of what's going on here. All right, set that up there. Let's play with, so I've only got two brushes handy at the moment. Let's see. I'm thinking just for yucks, melon green is one. I'm going to go the other extreme with orange. The other thing I might can do, if I can find a paper towel handy, I could also just do this with a paper towel. I'm so disorganized after a couple of months, it's kind of scary. Here we go. And I got a couple more back here. I think I used up the last of my paper towels. So let's see if we can get one of these gloves on. Yuck. What's the yuck? Which color is yuck, or all of them? Awesome. You're saying no color, or the green? I bet you don't like the green. Looks like the contents with oceans around. Oh, continents with oceans around. Well, let's put a little green on there and see what happens. That's why we're doing it when we can turn it away before we're committed. So we're going to just take a little green. And we're going to go right on the top there. Now that's going to turn off the key because that's going to be all wacky. Remind me to turn the key back on. So that you don't see the back wall there. That should be in the top view now. Do believe, yep. Okay, so that's what some green looks like. Good, bad, or indifferent. Like I say, this will turn away because it's just, all it's doing really is dyeing the resin. The wood should be pretty well impregnated. And let me get this plug out of this red. This is actually orange. It says, it looks red, but it says orange. We'll come over here where that other color is not influencing. Seasonally speaking, the orange would be pretty nice. Does the dye leach out even after sealing? There's no dye really in this piece of wood, and this dye, because it's been sealed, it shouldn't soak in or leach in, if that's what you're referring to. There might be some open fibers, but since the piece was stabilized, it should turn off of there pretty easily, he says. He could be wrong. It could go down in some of these little wormholes and kind of stay. And I may end up with a multicolored piece. But because it's basically wood plus resin or resin plus wood, at this point the color should turn away pretty easy. Again, should be in the operative word. And let's try something in the red. It's red, violet, and magenta. And see, and also we could do multiple colors, and on the clear here, that would be different. So I'm going to go right to where we divide the pure resin with the wood mix. And I'm thinking magenta. Just as our little test. You never know what you're going to get. I've always talked about working with the dyes and doing some test pieces. In this case, this is kind of a test piece because we think we can turn it away. Now, I do like the magenta and the dark colors in general, but again, seasonal, Halloween, kind of the orange. The green, I have to agree with you, also not so much. And let's do one more test with red, just pure red. Not seasonal, just red. Coral red, kind of an orangish red actually. All right. Just a little teeny bit in there. I'm saving the brushes for later. I'm finding shards of paper towel floating around in here that I can work with. And let's see what a little red looks like. Coral red. So it's not orange, and it's not fire engine. All right. We could also do one color on the inside, one color on the outside. I'm thinking because it's Halloween coming up here, Halloween season, fall season, I'm voting orange. That's my vote. The coral red would be my second choice. The green doesn't do much for me. I like the magenta as an when there's clear on here, and that would be the next thing we do, and I can do that real quick. That's going to dry super fast. And the other thing you always want to do is throw a little bit of your finish on. And since I know we're going to turn this away and it's going to dry fast, I'm going to spray a little bit of clear lacquer on here. Yeah, Mark, I like the magenta as a RD piece, and it looks better on the monitor than it does in person here. But let's put some gloss lacquer on here, just one quick coat. And you'll see that shine up. And I'll leave that there for a second. And then I'll go to the next color. And this will dry super fast. And we'll spin it here in a second. So that's the magenta. Here's the orange. And again, for the Halloween fall season, I'm liking the orange just for those kind of things. The orange and the brown. I love these dark cracked swooshes that are in it. That's what's so cool about this kind of stuff. You get these natural lines and the worm lines that do all kinds of crazy stuff. Now here's the green. Again, I'm like it awesome, and I'm not a big fan of the green and brown. I mean, it's a nice color. Yeah, Corey, I agree that the orange looks good with the lacquer. And then here is whatever the first one was, I think. What was that? Something out in the yard. That is the other red, the coral red, which is the kind of orangey. So that orange to me, I think I like the best. Awesome, you're talking about the green, right? Yeah, it's a cool green, but I don't think it works on this piece. I completely agree with you. I think I'm going to vote for the orange. And we can discuss that as we go along. So cool beans. Let's spin that guy. We'll let it dry. And I'm going to take a sip of water while we're letting that spin. And I'll go back to the inside and let that outside dry, that lacquer dry. Get my fan blowing back on me a little bit more. There we go. So let's go back to the hollowing tool, see how she does. In here, we'll set that up like so. And I'll leave it in the overhead for the moment. Double check them in the right height. Yep. Oh, and I was gonna say, so let me go to the end camera here. You always want to cut off of the very end of the cutter, right here. You don't want to cut off at this end. So if I want to sweep across the bottom, now I'm reaching pretty far if I go all the way there, but if I want to sweep across the bottom, I want to rotate the tool, and I'm gonna have to get that far in, I'm gonna have to move the tool rest in a little bit. You're going to want to rotate the tool to where you're cutting with that end again. And if I'll show you in the overhead, you'll see how much the angle is rotated to get even close. And I hit the swan neck a little bit. I'm hitting right in here. So there's times when it's hard to beat a straight tool because I'm just bouncing off the rim right there. Okay. So we don't need to bother with the bottom on this. Let's get right to the maximum on that. Orange it is, gang. And to be honest with you, the way it's working today, and this is one thing that I am always a big fan of, if a certain tool works, one tool works better than another, change it out. The straight tool, I can get to everything, and it's easier to cut. I'm not getting as much vibration. So I'm going back to the straight tool. We'll go to the end, just because it's working better. Just because it says hollowing on it. If you can reach it with another tool, and it does what you need, no reason not to use it. I'm holding the tool a little bit different than I normally do because I don't want to lean over in front of you and get in front of the camera. And with this, I can just keep rolling right on around and go to the bottom. Okay, so because I say this is a candy bowl for Halloween, that's my thought, I'm going to go ahead and roll this top rim so that it doesn't have any kind of a sharp line. So we're going to roll this guy over. And we're going to do it right now. We're going to start that process right now. Take that sharp edge off of there. And I'll show you in the overhead how the profile is changing. Okay, so that takes that, smooths up that roll. Now I have a lip right here on the inside. So I want to go ahead and get rid of that. So I'll come back in here with my tool. And you can feel the ridge right there. I can feel that ridge. So I'll just pick up the cut right there at that ridge. And blend that away. One more pass in here. And that takes care of that pretty well. Now I just have to decide how much do I want to take out of the inside, how much do I want to take off the outside, which one's easier to work with. So I'm going to come back out here to the outside, and I'm going to see how quickly it cuts down. I'm going to switch over to the radius style cutter, okay, and I'll come over here to the overhead for you. And we'll see if this guy is sharp, what shape it's in. It'll clean off the colors here. switch hands so I don't get in my own way. I'm not as good left-handed. Now, I feel a little, some burrs in my tool rest, and I have my file out here. I always keep my file handy because, especially when I'm out here on the outside with that radius cutter, you can't see what I'm doing. So I'll come over here. I'm filing this tool rest just to get some of those little burrs out of it, just with my flat file, just to keep that tool sliding nicely. Okay. Still got some burrs in it. I'm going to back this up. You may not be able to see it. I need to get a better angle here. And then if you've got some wax handy, paraffin wax is great. I'll show you here in front view. So I've just got my big flat file. And just clean it. Always clean up the entire piece. Don't do just the center, because otherwise you'll start to file a U shape into it. So keep it even. Okay. That's much better than it was. We'll come back around here, and you can see how in the overhead, oh well, you still got to see the green screen again. No producer. You can see how it takes off the color, except for maybe in a few deep spots. Okay. And there's something in here, I can't remember what I put in there when I did this piece. Down in there, some other additive. I'm going to turn that back on before I forget. Come around the back side here a little bit more. Then I want to show you something. I'm going to go back up the front. I want to move a fair bit of material. And something that people may not think about, but works really well. So typically with this tool, with this cutter, we're told and instructed that we want to use the center arc here, because that's why it's radius, so we don't use the corners and let those corners dig in. But if you want to move more material, you can actually go ahead and let that corner, and you can cut with that corner and the side, the left or right hand side. If you so choose, and you can actually move more material that way. All right. So I'm going to switch back over here, back up to the front, and I'm going to actually utilize the corner of the cutter now and see how it does for me. Now I want to make a little recess. I'm going to roll that lip right there. So I'm going to start back in here. And you see how I'm using the corner of the tool now? And if you look at the end, you can see I'm actually taking a pretty heavy cut. Okay? So just because it's a radius cutter doesn't mean that you can't use the corner to remove more material. All right? Now it's a little harder to control, and we'll come back and clean that all up. We've got plenty of material, but like I said, I wanted to get this down to about 1/4 of an inch or so, give or take. Move my tool rest around. Okay, so see, that moves a lot of material quickly without using the round tool to get you the ocean waves. Of course, we'll be careful when we get close to the jaws here. Okay. So what I can do is I can come back here and make a smooth pass again. just to get my shape back, and then I can take another swing at taking material out of this. So we'll go back to using it as it was kind of designed and clean up our profile. Remember, I'm gonna come underneath here. I'm gonna make a little lip up here, so don't worry about that little hump that's right in there. And I'm looking against my black cabinet just to get my profile back kind of where I want it. Move my tool rest around. Change hands. Now I got plenty of material right in here, so I might use the corner just for a moment here again. More for shaping. I mean, I could be doing this with the round tool as well. Don't get me wrong on that. Okay, now we'll blend all this back in, because you just don't want to get too far out of shape when you're being aggressive. Now I'm back into cutting in the center and just smoothing that profile back out some. Okay, and I'm just checking this with my fingers, obviously. Okay, I'm happy with the inside. So now I want to put, like I said, I want to put a little detail in this rim right here. So I'm going to find, excuse me, a CI5, a small negative rake cutter. This happens to be on the #1 hollower there. And I'm going to come in here and cut away right underneath this to start to make that rim a little bit, just to get that profile shaped up. So once I do this, I'm kind of committed. No, I'm not kind of committed, I'm fully committed to what I'm doing here. Clean this off, you can see a little bit better maybe. Okay, so what I want to do now, I'm going to take my mask off for a second, get a little fresh air in here anyway. Some of the chips off of me. I'll get my little calipers out. And let's see how you can see this the best. So I can see that I still have close to ½ an inch even right there. So I've got lots of material. Trying to get that over that. There you go, over the dark space. So you can see I've got plenty of material right there, okay? So I can take some more of this, make this groove even more pronounced. Double check that. All right. Okay, so we can probably almost half that, maybe not quite half, for that profile right there. That's the beauty of leaving yourself some extra material when you first lay the piece out, because then you can come along and decide what you want to do to it design-wise. Now if I wanted to get radical, I could actually turn this piece around and cut back up underneath here, or I can put a little I can come back up underneath with here's what we can do. The detail tool. So do I have a detail tool with a negative rake? I do, and a micro. So I can take the little micro detail tool, and you should be able to see that there on my hand. And I can come back and undercut this rim a little bit, which will help me with my CI5 that's going in there. So if I just want to have a little more profile relief under here, I think of it as making relief cuts. And it gives me a little bit better shadow line on the piece. And then I'll come back in with the CI5 and kind of clean that up. And I still have plenty of material to work with. And I wish I had a camera that was pointing this way, but I don't. So we're headed back towards the top. And I wish there was a smaller cutter than the CI5 for a smaller radius. But what I'll do is I'll take enough away here that I can get in that corner. Wonder if the micro is a little bit sharper. They don't like to be loaded up. That one's not any sharper. They don't like to be loaded fully around the corners. But that did what I want. I'll do a little bit more with that CI5 up in that corner right there. And I would say you can't quite see down in here, I know. But making those relief cuts allowed this to work in there much easier. And there's a real fine line that I can see down in there from the back side that's guiding me. Take a little bit more of this away. And so if I use my ice pick, maybe I can point this out to you. On the top edge here, I have a smooth line. I'm waiting for it to pop up on the monitor so I can see what you're seeing. If you can imagine up on this edge where I'm cutting round, and this edge I'm cutting round, and right in here is where I have left to cut to get this radius after I use the detail pointed tool. So there's a line here and there's a line here, and I'm just bringing those two lines together, and that will make my radius, my nice smooth radius in there. And I can watch that come close and to blending together. Okay, and so now I have probably just about the thickness that I want. We'll check that again. Open up my mask here. So we find something to put this over where you can see. I had black before. Find a way to do it. There we go. So that's getting pretty close. That's down pretty close to a quarter. It's a fat quarter. strong quarter, if you will. But that's pretty good. Now I've got a sharp edge right here, which I do want to go ahead and get rid of. So I'll just go ahead and use my little CI5 again. I'll just roll that edge over so that it doesn't cut you. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Now, I'm going to go back to moving material with my radius cutter in this profile. I've taken this away. I still kind of like this shape, but I'm going to take some more material away. Using the corner for a little bit heavier cut. Again, let me show you from the end so you can see that cut happening. How heavy it is. Fully utilizing the corner of that radius cutter. One of the big keys is learning what different things you can do with your tools outside of their norm design, what they were designed to function as, etc. That really opens up a lot more opportunities for you. Pops you back into the overhead here. Now when we turn it around, we can clean all that up, or we can actually, because I'm taking enough material away here, we can make a little base out of this section that I'm working with in here. I got tons of material, okay? Continue on around left-handed. I'm taking a pretty heavy cut. That's why I'm getting a little bit of vibration. If I ease up on the depth of cut, the vibration goes away. And then as I transition towards pushing down towards the center and into more solid material, that vibration goes away as well. Okay, so now let's get into where we can see through the clear. I can start to see my fingers through there a little bit, and more of the wood profile, this big arc in here is opening up. But I do want to put speaking of profile, I want to put my profile back in because I've got a little hump in here now. I want to go ahead and get that straightened out before I lose control of it. So right in through here, I'm back into the center of the cutter. Bring that profile back into place. Again, I was just kind of doing heavy bulk material removal with the radius cutter. All right, and I also want to take care of this edge here a little bit. I want to roll that in a little bit, and I can use this for that, right in the center of the cutter. All right. There's some funny things in it. It's interesting with the wood. There's wood on the inside of this section right here. Let's see if I can show you here. So where my finger is right here, this is wood on the inside of the piece. But on the outside, there's still clear here. There's wood there. Just kind of interesting how the wood, because this whole section was missing in here. Kind of neat. Kind of neat. Okay, going back to work and getting my profile back again. And pretty soon we'll get the thickness where we want it, and the profile refined where we want it, and then we'll start really making our nice, clean, smooth, light cuts for the smoothest surface we can get, so that we don't have to sand a whole bunch. So I'm looking, you can't see it, but over on the other side where my fingers point, I'm looking at the back of a black cabinet that allows me to see my profile. And you can see it here. Of course, you're looking at the silver of the bed. But if I was to put something kind of black in there, I don't have any black paper. If I put something black underneath that, well, the silver actually is working better for us right there, for you. That's why I have lots of monitors. I like to see what I see and what you see to get the best look. And as you can see, as a byproduct, if I want it, I'm getting a base here. I have enough material to make a base. All right. So this is looking pretty cool. Lorianne, good to see you. Haven't seen you guys in a long time. Hope you're doing well. Hope everything up Jersey way is good. I'm finally back out here in the studio and having fun. So I'm going to make one more pass down through here, kind of heavy with the corner, now that I have my profile generally back where I want it. Again, I'll let you see that from the end as well. Again, cutting with the side and the corner of the radius cutter. Pop you back in the overhead. Might even start to profile that base. So you can notice, hopefully you notice that, I'm taking this off and get a little fresh breeze here. My feed rate has not been real fast. It's been a pretty light, gentle feed rate. Again, because the wood with the stabilizing resin in it is so hard. But this is looking great. I say the light is starting to pass through it. It's got a nice little profile to it. I'll probably clean up here in this upper rolled area a little bit. And again, by default, and I've got lots of material on the inside, I could make a little base here if I want. And I kind of like having a little base on this. So I think I'm going to work on that a little bit. I'm gonna roll this profile in even deeper. I've got lots of material here to give you an idea. I got plenty of material to work with. Down here in the bottom, if you can see that against my jacket or my hand, it's hard to see. Let me go to the overhead. I've still got 3/4 of an inch of material here in this base section, so I can roll this profile in a good bit deeper if I want to, because I got lots to work with there. I mean, that's plenty of material to work with. So I can roll this around. I mean, the shape is nice as it is. And so, Jeff Peters, glad you made it, buddy. I'm working on a Halloween candy bowl. We decided we're going to dye it orange for Halloween. Okay, so I'm going to go back into this, a little bit more work to make a base for that. And how are we doing on time? It is 12:13, it looks like. Okay, going back to the overhead, I'm going to get a quick sip of water. Isn't that a song, Jeff? I like candy. If you were alive in the, what was 90s, I think that was a hit. I like or I want candy, one of those things. Okay. Let's go ahead and switch over because I want to make a radius action here. So I'm going to switch over to the CI3 negative rake and come in here and work on this profile a little bit. That'll help me with my rounded area there. So I'm going to come up about an inch or so and start to pick up the cut. And then by default, I get this radius of the CI3 cutter in here. And then we'll switch over to the CI5 to bring it in even more. And then we'll come back up and blend this side because we still have plenty of material. We'll blend this, we'll make this arc, we'll blend this arc all together so everything's nice. I'm going to take the sharp edge off of that so I don't cut my finger. Yeah, bow wow wow, that sounds right. Okay, so let's go in here a little further with a CI5, smaller radius. Gives us a little more depth in our base, a little more profile. And then our radius square style cutter will still come right down in through here and clean this up. Get those chips out of the way so you can see. Again, because it is so hard with the resin, the stabilized resin wood, you know, it is a slower process than if it was just a piece of wood. Okay, I like that radius. I'm looking at it against my work table over there, and I like that. So now I'm going to come back in with the radius cutter and return my profile back in here. I've got a kind of a sharp edge right in here. So let's get that shape back where we want it. I'll use the corner so I can take a fair bit of material again. And I can start to blend that in, okay? I got a hump up here. Let's just start to shape this up a little bit nicer. Got a little hump right in here. So now it's time we start to refine these. And again, I'm looking over against my black backdrop, and you guys have the overhead shot to see. And I don't mind if that corner picks up the cut right there a little bit. Okay, now we start getting serious about looking at this profile. Still, it's got a little hump right in here, but I'm not super keen. It's just a little bit, not bad. I got a little ledge right in there, so we'll just clean this up. We'll tune this guy. Now again, like I said earlier, I'm not going to sand this today in front of you. It'd take a little while, but I'll put some dye on it and I'll put some lacquer on it, then I'll come back and sand it. I'll just sand that away so that we can see what our colors look like. Now we know that there'll be some tool marks in it, and that's a given because I won't have sanded it. Although with enough lacquer I could actually take those tool marks out, but sanding it would be better. Again, I'm just refining that. There's a funny hump. It's weird right in here. And it looks like when it's not moving you can't see it, so that's one of those cool things. But it looks like I've got a little hump in there, out around this, which I don't know how I could have. Yeah, something moved a little bit. So we'll clean that up. It was not an illusion. It's amazing how things will shift and move when you release tension. So we'll get this cleaned up right in here. And I know you can see this brown line here and then the white line. You can't see the other brown line on the inside. But what I want to do is get that white line to go away. Now, of course, it may also be part of the... That's pretty smooth. I think it's just part of the profile in there. Okay. What do you think, guys? Is that profile? How you like that profile? Does that look fairly appropriate? I kind of like the way that profile looks right there. Again, I don't have a full thing to put underneath it, But I'm happy. I'm pretty happy with that. I mean, I could pick it to pieces all day long if I wanted to, but I don't think I will. Okay. Little sharp edge right there, so I'm going to come back in with the... I want to come up underneath here just a little bit more if I can. I'm going to tempt fate, just a... Yeah, Jeff, I like the foot shape too as well. I'm really happy with how this little guy came out. I want to put myself a little more undercut right here, if I can, without messing things up. And then I just want to roll that sharp edge off. There we go. That's what I talk about this all the time in that, and I'm going to pop my mask off here. I talk about this a lot, and I think it's worth reiterating, is that, so this was just a basic form when I started today, and we cast it months ago because it had to have been in the spring. And I personally, I don't have a problem with setting a piece off. I got boxes of them, so maybe this is my justification. But you set a piece off. You don't have to have a final product, shape, design in mind when you first make it. Look, I'm reading profile, looks great to me. Thank you, Keith. So you come back in a couple of months, and especially if a piece is bothering you, you just can't figure out what to do with it, set it off, put it in a box, put it on the shelf, and look at it for a while. When I was making them, turning pieces for the craft shows and all, sometimes I would just kind of get stumped on one. I'd just set it off until one day a little light bulb would go off. Or the other thing is do like I did today, get into the piece, just kind of start turning on it, cleaning it up, and see what suits you. I mean, it could have been, there's 100 different shapes I could have made this today. My knee gave out. 100 different shapes this could have been today, and none of them would have been wrong. It's just, what do you feel like making that day? That's the fun, creative part of wood turning. In this case, it's a hybrid, but we'll generalize it as wood turning. It's fun, it's relaxing, it's expressive, it's creative. All those things that we do this for. And if you like it, then this is how if you like it and it looks good to you and you're happy with it, that's who you got to please. And you don't have to please the rest of the world. So I'm happy with this piece. I think it looks pretty cool. Now, it does need to be sanded to be all nice and truly finished up. I like the rim. I think this will all clean up with sanding. Let's go ahead and put the orange dye on it. And again, it hasn't been sanded. We know that. Let's dye this thing orange. Let that dye dry. It'll dye real quick, especially with the breeze blowing on it. We'll shoot it with a couple shots of lacquer. And we'll know basically what we've got, what we're going to get. And at that stage, still, I mean, it's still a little bit thicker than a quarter. It's probably 3/8, especially down in this middle section in here. Right in through here. I still got 3/8 in here. So I could take some more away. I could turn off that dye if I didn't like it. Look inside here, pop into the inside. The inside is cool as well. It's got all its unique, funky wormholes. And again, if we decide to make this super shiny, after we dye it, we lacquer it, we sand it, dye it, lacquer it, and we could build up lacquer and cut it super smooth, and then it would really be like a headed for ceramic kind of look. And it would be the strangest ceramic look that you've seen, because you've never seen ceramic with wormholes in it, in orange and brown and translucent clear and all that. So, that being said, as they say, let's make a little room. And like I said, I am out of paper towels, but I'm going to find something to stick here on my lathe. And that gives you an idea of the profile again right there. Now that I've got that white board under there. We'll go ahead and dye this guy orange with a paintbrush. Sorry about my reach there. And you could airbrush multiple colors into this. Lots of different things. I mean, the sky's the limit for you here. Okay, just a cheap China bristle brush. And find the orange, make sure I get the orange. Some of mine has been around for a long time, and it just has kind of colored dots on it. There we go, there's the orange. And the coolest thing I think I've discovered was being able to take the aniline dye that's for wood, theoretically, and change the color of a resin. This resin is, I put something in it when I cast it, but I don't really remember what it was. And because I'm going to use a brush, I'm not going to bother putting another glove on. If I decide I need to touch it, I'll put on a glove. But I'm just going to let this drip. So let's do the inside first. Jeff, yeah, you could spray it. I've got the aerosol dyes as well. I don't know that I have an orange aerosol in the house, but you could easily do that. You could do it with an airbrush. No problem whatsoever. This is what I've got handy. So let's go to the inside or end view. And one thing about putting dye on is always make sure you keep the whole thing wet until you have everything covered. Okay? Now it may look a little strange on the translucent resin here. We'll see how that takes. And it may make us change our mind. Who knows? It looks fantastic on the wood section. I mean, I love that. And if I have problem with the streaks in the resin, I can always come back and spray it if I need be, which would take care of that. So I'm looking at what you're seeing now in time there in the monitor, and that's just cool. So let's take you to the overhead. Again, and I'm flooding the piece quite liberally. Don't ever get dye on your jaws, okay, guys? I've got so much stuff on my jaws, I just have to clean them up, or if you keep using them, it cleans right up over time. That is cool right there, that orange and the brown. I don't know about you, but I kind of like that. And I think what I'll do is I'll go back to the inside and I'll do, again, it's not really soaking in very much. It sits on top. So I think we're going to do 2 coats. And then it's drying quick because I got a fan blowing on the whole thing. I'm going to jump you back into the inside. Get a second coat on the inside here. And then I'll tell lies for a few minutes. And we'll put a coat of lacquer or 2 on it, just to give us an idea. And the best thing about this is if you had this as a candy bowl, you know it's not going to get broken. It'd be really hard to break this much resin. The second coat kind of helps, seems like it helps make the dark a little darker. You know, I'm not exactly sure why. And I'm going to have to do, I'll get in trouble because I don't have a flashlight out here, but I'm going to take my cell phone and shine light through the clear resin area after we have this thing whole covered and see how she lights up. Because there's some things I've got on the edges of the wood in there. I remember that now. I built up some goofy stuff in the casting. You could add web effects to it, without a doubt. Mark, that's a good idea. So the funny thing about this piece of wood is this was a really nice, perfectly good piece of wood at one time with no wormholes, no decay. And I completely ruined it only to make it into something else, which is what makes my day. Okay, let me find a cell phone here. And let's shine some light on this. Flashlight. And because we're in the overhead still. Come on, phone. I'm supposed to buy a new phone because this one is like antique. So that definitely, if you lit it somehow, the wormholes don't come through. But that edge, that natural edge, it's got a nice, scary Halloween look to it. It might be cool if nothing else than to put a candle in it. That's something you could do as well to light this up. In this section right in here, I know you can't see it up close. It's got all kinds of texture right in there, in the clear, on the edges of the wood. The other wormholes don't go all the way through, but that's all right. And so if I do it the other way, it doesn't do anything. Let's see. Give you another view here while we're letting this dry now. Fun with flashlights and phones, right? Okay, remember to go the right direction. Just trying to let you see that profile a little bit. All right. So now I'm going to spin this slow so I don't get dye all over me. And we'll help encourage that dye to dry. And then I'll shoot just a couple of shots of lacquer on it. I feel like I've been turning resin again. We'll let that dry, and that'll dry pretty quick. I really like, this little fun project. Again, could have been 100 different shapes. Nice little thing, fun combination of stabilizing resin, casting resin, aniline dyes. Nice little piece. About, what is it, probably about 5 inches across or so. Something to sit out on the counter, put your Christmas candy, or Christmas. I was somewhere already in I think I was in Lowe's, and they already have all the Christmas stuff out, and this was like a week ago, which is sad. Put your Halloween candy in there, your Tootsie Rolls, and whatever else you have for Halloween around, sitting on the counter, and that will be cool. So now I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit, let this get this to dry, throw off any excess. I've got the fan blowing on it. I'll step back over here so I don't go to lunch with red dye on my face. And I'm looking at the screen now. I love my fall picture. I'm standing in the way of it now, but I look over at when I see that the fall back there. So no, that is not the picture out the back window of this building. This back Billy actually doesn't have a back window on that side. And it's still in the way. I always forget where that's at relative to. I guess I have to go stand over here. If I come stand over here, then the window's all the way open. I'm just passing a little time here while that dries. There we go. Watching real time there on Facebook. So that's and it's getting a little darker as it dries down, at least here in person. I'm seeing what it looks like on your screens as well. And the lights kind of do a funny thing to it. That'll dry pretty quick. We'll wait a little bit longer. Let's pop you in the overhead. And it looks dark with that white board underneath. So let me take that white board away. And because the cameras do their auto white balance kind of deal, it gives you a more accurate. You'll see here in just a second when that, there you go, as that shifts. Pretty cool. I missed a little bit right there. Let me touch that up real quick just for yucks, even though I'm going to sand it again later. Just a little teeny bit right there. Wipe that down, get it dry. All right. Okay, somewhere I've got my lacquer. We'll shoot the inside first. Again, it'll only stay shiny for a few moments until it starts to dry. I'll step away so that I can breathe. And then I'll pop you in the overhead. This can's getting kind of low. And you see, we've got texture too, so it's going to be kind of interesting. There are some holes in the wormholes. This can is just about empty. At least there's no dust in the air in here at the moment. Hardy har. Cool beans. So let's take this thing out of the jaws. So we can set it up on the lathe here. We set it right up there. It should be back wall against it. Nice little shape, nothing fancy. And I'll pick it up by the base here and hold it in the overhead so I can hold it in different ways. Still a little wet with the lacquer there, but not the first time I ever got it on me. All right, so now let me put you in the overhead. You can see the inside and we'll turn it sideways. Again, pay no attention to the actual quality of the finish. We're looking at the variations in the wormholes. Yeah, I think, guys, what do you think? Talking about the web effects, like a black web effects on it. Would that be where you would go? Take the black and just spider web it with the black web effects. That's going to give it some heavy texture. So we might want to do, in that case, a satin. Do a satin lacquer so we don't have the shine. So black web effects, which would give it actual black webs on it. See, there's terracotta, that wouldn't be good. Cobalt blue, no, I think just black. Maybe white, maybe black and white. Be an experiment to see. Black for sure. Black for sure. How are we doing? So I got plenty of time, but we might wrap up early today. I had a lot of fun. This thing is kind of cool. You know? And that'll make a good little candy bowl. Gold, they don't have any gold web effects. I could possibly do some gold highlight. Now, gold would be a great color with it. I could do some gold chroma gilt on it somehow, somewhere. Maybe on a rim, but that would become a solid thing. It'd be interesting to experiment with if I could get it down into any of the little pock marks, the little wormholes, and get it to just stay there and wipe off the rest. As soon as this dries, I hit it pretty hard, so it's still pretty wet. Some little gold flecks to it would be kind of cool. So yeah, but definitely the black would work. And again, then I would want to do a satin because it's going to look weird having the humps of the black web effects on there. um, on a gloss. Mike says it might be too much if you add all the different ones. Yeah, that's just one of those things you experiment with. And again, the beauty of, there's enough material there that if you just messed it up to where it's the ugliest thing you ever saw, you could actually just turn it again instead of trying to sand it all away. Just make a couple of light passes with your tools and turn away whatever you did that ended up not working out right. And go back to, like, say, in its base element, like it is now, just one single solid color, and you would be good. So that's the beauty of leaving yourself enough to work with, and this not being fragile at all because it's been stabilized and cast. So I mean, it's rock solid. So you could take some more off and do it again without having to sand. Just cut it off with the tools. That would be a good way to go. Yeah, I think that's cool. I had fun. I think maybe I'll wrap it up with about 20 till, quarter till, depending on which computer I look at, though they should all be the same. And get on off to some lunch. I'm so happy to be back out here doing Monday Methods. Mondays, this is the second one after a couple of months away. Looking forward to all of them coming up. Keep an eye out for, and of course I'll be letting you know, but there is a product showcase going to come up in November. Probably a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days. I want to get the rest of the Nova products into the Spirocraft store as well as all the woodcut products into the store before I go ahead and do that. And then we'll have a product showcase for 3 days in November. I'm pretty close to which weekend it is. I just got to keep dialing in the schedule a little bit. Thank you, Arthur. I had a great time with the presentation. I always appreciate y'all coming. And it's going to be nicer fall weather here pretty soon. We could actually open the doors this morning. That's nice around here in South Georgia. So, folks, I think I'm going to call it a wrap for today. I'll leave that guy sit right there. And, well, maybe I'll put him over here and go to the overhead camera so I can walk over and shut things down. So I will put that right there, and I will pop it to the overhead camera and say thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you next Monday. I will be doing hollowing with the Woodcut Proform hollowing tools next week. I do want to play with them for you. So that's next week. I will see you then. Everybody have a great week. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys on Thursday night in the group meeting at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. All right. Thank you all.